Great skills again by him. Oh, marvellous goal by Logan.
Welcome to the Rangers Journey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rangers Journal on this Thursday, the 4th of December. Hot off the heels of what was, if you're a neutral, probably quite an exciting game, but for us Rangers fans, maybe not quite perfect viewing, but certainly an improvement on the weekend just past. Here to chat to me about the game and sort of discuss some of the key moments, as well as taking your questions this evening. I've got great two guys here. First of all, just to my side there, I've got Chris. How you doing, mate?
Very well, Doug. It's a Thursday night. I'm on with you two lovely gents, and we're hitting the weekend very shortly, so I am doing fantastic, mate. Thank you for asking. How is your good self?
Yeah, it's not too bad, not too bad. Can't complain. I was out and about today, so visiting Edinburgh, so that's always, I suppose, nice to change the scenery.
Absolutely.
And of course, the Las Vegas loyal, we've got Richard. How are you getting on, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Just a cheers, easy day for me at work today. We enjoyed a few Christmas markets in the local area, so had a few glasses, so feeling fairly merry earlier on, but I'm all right now.
Good stuff, good stuff. And we will be getting joined by the incomparable Mitch at some point. He's doing a little bit of filming for one of our scouting videos, and he's going to join us when he's done. So he will no doubt randomly pop up at some point. Okay, gents, obviously we, as I say, had our game against Dundee United. We match finishing 2-2. First of all, I'll start with yourself, Chris, and just general thoughts on the game. For myself, it was and still an imperfect game, but a significant improvement on the game against Falkirk.
Yeah, totally agree. Last night I was a bit angry, Doug. I'm not going to lie. I think I was angry in the fact that I felt we threw away the 3 points last night, if I'm being honest. And off the back of how we played on Sunday again, it's that drop in the point situation. Hearts also dropping points last night. Everything together. I think the anger came out a bit too much, and I apologised to the viewers at the end before I went off last night's pod, because I like to try and give a balanced view. So today, knowing I was coming on tonight, I thought, look, let me try and watch some of the game back. I did that and watched some of the highlights, watched some of the key moments, and I honestly, I'd probably say I did give them a bit of a hard time, probably too much of a hard time, because I thought Rangers actually, from an attacking sense, played really well, but just couldn't score. And that's on the strikers in terms of not taking the chances. But if you take those chances, that game could be ended up 5-6-2 at any point in time. And at that point, we're sitting saying it's a tremendous victory. Rangers are rolling at that point. So for me, in reflection, Doug, I felt we should have taken the 3 points, absolutely. It's good to see we're creating more chances, especially off the back of the Falkirk game. And I think that, look, I'm looking forward to see what happens on Saturday. I'm looking forward to seeing if the players can continue where they left off from last night, and just keep moving forward and just see where we end up. But if we showed the right attitude like we did last night, I don't think we'll be too far wrong. But on reflection of it, I think I probably gave the players and things a wee bit of a hard time last night, and I shouldn't really have done that too much. But one thing I would say, Doug, I thought the Rangers fans last night were absolutely fantastic. They sung from first minute to last, and the amount of fans that stuck around to see the penalty at the end, I'll take my hat off to them, because if it was me, I'd have probably left 20 minutes before the end there in that one. So massive shout out to those guys for getting up there on a Wednesday night, cold Wednesday night, and sticking that one out, and for the atmosphere they generated. I thought it was fantastic. It really was. Really good game overall, and just a shame we couldn't get the 3 points.
Absolutely. I watched the post-match last night, and if that counts as you angry, then you're the most mildly mannered angry man that I've ever heard of. And as the comment says there, no need for apologies either. This has been an incredibly frustrating season, and no doubt that'll not be the first time you'll probably feel that way, I imagine. Yeah, you're absolutely fine. Great to get. That's the best thing about fan media is it's more honest opinions, and when you feel bad, we're all feeling bad. So, as I say, don't ever apologise for that. Richard, as I say, improvements to the games, but still plenty to work on. What were your thoughts?
More of the same in a lot of ways. Showed great promise going forward. Lots of good movements and glimpses, but still the same frailties that we've seen throughout the season, last season as well, unfortunately. So I thought some players actually, stood up a lot more. I know we'll probably go through them in more detail later on, but I was pleased in elements of the game, particularly going forward, but still equally just as frustrated at the back, which is the same old thing as it has been almost every game. As much as it was better in Falkirk than the Falkirk game, that is correct, but still a lot of frailties and stuff that we need to work on and improve upon, which I know a lot of it is down to the players that we've got, and hopefully there'll be changes in January, but hopefully something will happen in between then where a few more of them will kick on that perhaps we've seen last night.
Absolutely. And in terms of kicking on, Chris, obviously one of the things that we'll talk about in a bit more detail later is Bajrami, who, last two games I think has come in and played particularly well. We've got other French players, Cameron, Curtis, that haven't gotten their opportunities yet to maybe come in and do more. But do you think we'll see more of the French players getting opportunities if things carry on, or do you think that Rule's going to keep sort of persevering? I'm assuming in the background, obviously, you'll be trying to coach the players and bring improvements out of them. I mean, some of these players like Asgard are international level players, so you would assume that you'll give them some level of faith. But how long can that patience last?
It's an interesting one, because we have to take Danny Rule and what he said a few weeks ago, or a couple of weeks ago, in fact, you've been listening to that, where he said everyone will get their opportunity. And he then said after the Falkirk game, he's not going to keep continuing to give the same people the same chances. So you have to assume that there's going to be the French players are going to get that chance before the January window, so he knows what he's got and what they can do. I'm a big fan of Nadim Bajrami. I think he's a cracking player. I really do. I think he's someone who came to Rangers at the time when we put that $3.5 million out there for him. It was a wee bit of unheard of, and everybody thought, "Wow, where did that money come from?" Because on one hand we were told there was nothing, then we suddenly dropped $3.5 million. So that was a really interesting one at the time, and I think everyone had really high hopes at that point. And like everything in Scottish football, it takes time to settle. And I think if Nadim Bajrami gets a run in the team, I think we'll see the best of him, especially now as you've got the World Cup coming up. Every player's going to try and push and try and cement their place in their squads for the World Cup. So for me, I think Bajrami definitely, we're going to see more of him. I really liked what he was all about last night. Similar to the Falkirk game as well. I know he didn't do as much in the Falkirk game, but I really liked what he brought last night. His work rate was tremendous, I thought, last night. It really was. There were some passes that he had, maybe just a wee bit more on it, and it's through to the man, and we'll set a chance. But his work rate in particular, I think, was one where he's run half the park to go back and make a challenge. We're not seeing that from some of the likes of the Asgards and things like that. And I think Danny Rule is probably looking at the likes of Bajrami and things to say, you know what, these are the guys we need to step forward. And I said that after, I meant to say it on the podcast last night and I didn't, and I forgot all about it. It was only after we were chatting with the guys, and I said, when you watch back the penalty situation last night, Tello Asgard had took the ball and he was walking to the penalty spot, and Bajrami's went over and took the ball off and said, I'm taking the penalty. That shows true leadership and true grit to go and do it. It's a real pressure penalty, and he took the ball off and said, no, I'm going to do this. And I thought he stood up really well with that one, because anybody in that situation can hide. But look, I think for me, Danny Rule, I think what he's done is he's been very clever with the likes of Asgard, for example, because Asgard, I think, we've said it before, he's got all the talent in the world. He's still a young boy. He is an internationalist. I just think he needed to be taken out the firing line a little bit, and Danny Rule's done that. He's taken him out the firing line to say, right, let's not put him too much in the spotlight. Let's see if there's someone else there. And Bajrami, I think, is went in and grasped that. I think you'll probably find again on Saturday there'll be some more changes, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see the likes of Cameron and Curtis and things coming in, which I hope we will see, because I think everyone's crying out for that at the moment. But I think Barami stays in there as well. I think he will retain his place. The only thing for me, Doug, I would say would be I'd like to see Barami playing that number 10 role. I think playing out wide left, it's good for him, and I know he's played there, but whenever he's played international wise, he mostly plays in the 10 or just off the striker. And I think we would get more out of him if he played in that position. I would really like to see Danny Rowe give him that opportunity, but he's grasped it, and I think anyone else that comes in needs to do the exact same as what he's done.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we can see a bit more of that going forward. Richard, and along the same sort of lines, in terms of thinking about fringe players, what are your thoughts currently on the centre-back pairing? Obviously, we're going to have to persevere with them until probably the end of the month at least, maybe slightly past that, depending on how obviously Suter gets on and when he's fit to return. We've got Nsiala on the back burner. He's obviously a player that he came in at the end of last season, did fairly well. Couple of hiccups here and there. Obviously, that particular I think it was the Kilmarnock game when he comes off early, but apart from that, it looked relatively promising. He was bombed out of the team under Russell Martin. He's back in the squad now, although he hasn't featured. Do you think he's someone that we might see at some point, or would you more be in favour of trying to keep that area of the pitch settled and hope to kind of play them into form and allow them to build up a bit of a relationship?
It's a bit of a catch-22, really, to be honest. But to answer your question, I don't think we're going to see him as a starter. I think he's going to stick with Fernandes and Giga, and as much as they are not standing out in any way, still mistakes, I think he'll stick with them and build that relationship, as you say. Whether or not they deserve it, I don't know, but you must see something in them two ahead of Nsiala. I don't think it's a fitness issue with him, but to look at it on the flip side and just perhaps giving Rule a bit of an out with it, it might be a bit harsh to bring Nsiala out, bring him from the cold into the team, especially with the defence being under pressure and under the microscope at the minute. So I think he's probably better off sticking with the player that he's got, letting him build on that relationship and see where it goes and see where we can get to before the others are back, or before, hopefully, we get some reinforcements in January.
Yep, absolutely. That'll be a key point, as Cassie is just coming in there as well, mentioning Giga at some point will be away to AFCON, which will, in fact, that's the middle of December actually. So we may well be forced to give Nsiala a go. Or, of course, I suppose the other option is bringing Tav in and playing Aarons. I do think Aarons has he's improved, which all that means is he's no longer a total shambles, but he has improved since Rose come in. And I know a lot of people are keen to just get him binned and out, but I feel given how much issues there are, he might be one that probably worth just keeping. And if he's playing second fiddle, then that's fine. He can come in, and as long as he's not making silly mistakes, then that's fine. Before we move on to the next bit, I'm just going to thank our pod sponsor tonight, the Bluebells Bar at Porto del Carmen and Lanzarote. If you're over in Lanzarote, I can't speak at all tonight. It's gone. I'm just totally gone. If you're in Lanzarote, then do give them a visit. It's a great Rangers bar. You can have chill nights in. You can have a party. Obviously, get a few drinks in. Tell them that the Rangers Journal have sent you. They do obviously show Rangers games, so there's nothing to miss while you're away. You can enjoy a drink while you look over the ocean, or if it's a little bit too hot, then take it inside to the shade. As I say, big thanks to them for sponsoring us as always. And to my, to my whatever side this is, you've got a wee QR code here that you can click on that will take you straight to our Etsy shop for our new merch line. It's just etsy.com/shop/the Rangers Journal, or as I say, you can click on or scan that QR code. loads of great stuff there that is out just in time for Christmas, or indeed you can treat yourself, as a couple of the podders already have. Like I say, loads of good stuff. There's Danny Rule t-shirts and a couple of different colours, a few nice hoodies with the Rangers Journal text and logo on the back. I believe there's even a Christmas stocking, so get yourself over and have a wee look. It's a great way to support the channel if you're able. Or alternatively, you can just hit that subscribe button. That's a big help as well. The notification bell, which will let you know when we go live. Or if you really fancy, you can become a member of the channel for just 99p a month. We are putting out regular members content now, at least 3 videos a week. So those are usually on Sunday, Monday, and Friday. So take a look out for them as well. Okay, let's see what we got here. I got a quick question for Paul. I've not even read it, so I hope when I put it up, it's not offensive. Quick question for you to look into: players out of contract that would improve the team, given 5 or 6 weeks training, and players we could get in January. That's actually a great question, Paul, because it gives me the opportunity to plug the out of contract videos that the scouting team have been putting up over the last couple of weeks. I think they've done at least about 5 or 6 of them now, looking at different players from across the world who are out of contract that we might be able to sneak in the door. And I believe they've either already just put out or are about to put out one that's out of contract players that have Danny Rule links in particular. So again, some great content there. But I think that's definitely an area that we could potentially look at, Paul, to obviously get in some decent players for a lower value, having obviously spent so much summer just past. Okay, gents, bring up our usual match report. The ratings as ever done by our own Mitch, who I'm sure will come on and explain them in more detail once he arrives. Curiously enough, the overall rating is actually lower than the Falkirk game, which I find interesting. So I'm gonna get Mitch to explain that one to us when he gets here. I think the big thing for me when I'm looking at this is you can look at obviously we've got the total shots there, 32 total shots, only 10 of them on target, but see a massive amount of shots, 7 big chances, although 6 of them missed. And then when you sort of compare that to the right hand side with the more defensive stats, you can see Dundee United are all full on there in terms of the defensive stats. Chris, chance creation has been a big topic for us this season, particularly the failure to create chances, and this game was the complete opposite of that. So, how important is it that we kind of can carry on to, at the very least, create these high number of chances and just hope that prior to January, when we can look at getting someone in, that one of our strikers can click, because all 3 of them had really chances they should have scored, but none of them did.
Yeah, I think, do you know the first thing I would say, Doug, as well, is Tannadice is a really tough place to go to in any normal given day, right? And I don't think anyone would have thought Rangers would have went and had 32 shots on goal last night. I don't think that was something any of us were expecting at all. However, you look at the other side of it, I think that was Dundee United. They only won 1-7 at home. Was the stats that they were saying last night on that one. Obviously, they'd been beat 3-0 by Falkirk the week before at home as well. So it was one of those ones where you didn't know how that was going to go. Really, it could have went one or two ways. Rangers been really poor the weekend before. You would expect a bounce back, and I think we got that. I think it was really good that we got that from some of the players. Bayrami obviously stands out. Makoma, I thought, as Mitch has put on his ratings, was fantastic. I thought that was his best game for us last night, and we've really seen what he can offer at the left-hand side of things. I don't think it's any surprise that the chance creations have came about now that Bayrami's in the squad and the team. I think if you look at who was in there in terms of Asgard beforehand, Asgard is not, for me, and the stats may tell is different, right? But I don't see Asgard making the chances that Bayrami was making last night. Raskin, I know he's got a 4.5 there, but Raskin had a couple of chances or a couple of opportunities last night. One of the ones I would talk about would be the dink over for Gassama. It came off the post, and then obviously they've missed from there. That was a cracking through ball. That's only a through ball that Raskin can do. You'll find that very hard for anyone else to do. But if you look at Bayrami as well. Bayrami did something similar in the first half. Wasn't the same, but is a wee bit of similar one where he's missed the chance. Keeper's made the save off the back of it. So what I really liked last night, looking in reflection, was how we mixed it up compared to what we've done before. And that was the first time where I thought to myself, if this is the type of attacking play that we can get from a Danny Rule side, then we will be in a good place going forward. We just need somebody who can finish the chances at the end of it. I think what it has to work on, Doug, if I'm being honest, is the likes of Gassama. I think he needs to take Gassama and say to him, see when you're in that box and you get a chance to get the ball across, whip it across. Don't go for the shot every time, because there was 2 or 3 situations where he's went down that right-hand side, he's beat his man, and then he's tried to beat him again and cross the ball in, and he's lost it. And I just felt that's a wee bit frustrating. I think the Rangers fans could get on his back a little bit if he keeps doing that. But the good thing is, and I'll give the guy the credit, is he's getting into those situations. He's doing the work with it. But look, I think I'm trying to give that balanced view of Bayrami in there. If you get Bayrami in the middle and you get the right players around them, I think Rangers will have a really good attacking line. Miovski for me has to be the guy that's going to continue, because Chermiti's not got it as far as I'm concerned, and I don't think he should be getting the chance. I think if the rumours are true that he's going to Braga in January, then I would fly on there now if I could. So I think you've got to stick with Miovski, and you've got to stick with a front line and give them a chance. And I think over the next few weeks, I think you'll start to do that, especially with the amount of games that we've got coming up. I think you'll look at what's his best and maybe see where that takes him. But in terms of the chances created last night, it's only when you look back on and you look at these numbers and you say, wow, we did actually have a hell of a lot of chances compared to what we've had before. And it was a really good thing to see in reflection.
Absolutely, some good points there. And I'll miss you on the pod while you're working on your pilot's license, but all the best. Definitely encouraging that one. Couple of very quick comments, William. Hope Scott has given you a cut, Doug. So do I. That'd be grand, but somehow I doubt it. Money, we reinvest the money back into the pod, so that's all grand. Paul suggesting Jamal Lewis is one of the out contract players. I've seen a few people mention him. Jamal Lewis is a decent player, but his injury record is horrendous. And that's ultimately my concern with him. But I do know there's a few people that are fans of him, so something in there. Richard, we're going to talk about Bayrami in a little bit more detail slightly later. So if I put him aside for the moment, was there anyone else? You see there, obviously the rest of the team, other than Magoma, are pretty marked pretty average. Was there anyone else at all that showed much for you in that game that maybe gives a sign that we might get something better out of them?
Something better out of them, difficult. But for me, I always look at it as who from going into the next game you think deserves to keep their place, and it's been the whole season. It's been difficult to do that game on game. But Bayrami, Magoma, obvious ones. But for me, I think Barron deserves another start. I know people are going to cry out for Cameron, and he does deserve his opportunity, but I think Barron didn't really do too much wrong without doing anything, fantastic. But for me, he does a lot of the dirty work. He grafts. You're going to get, 110% out of him. And I feel that there is a really good pairing between him and Raskin. I think the problem is Raskin always comes too deep. Barron I see as a sort of sitting defender that's just going to, be an ugly midfielder, get the ball, give it to Raskin, make him do something, and in the attacking third. That's where I see his strengths within the team. We know he's not going to create that many chances. He's never going to be the type of player to shoot from outside the box or thread that pass through the forwards. That's not his style of play. Breaking up play, sitting, holding the midfield. Getting the ball, grafting, that seems his type of game. And I think he done that well last night. So for me, he's definitely one that I think deserves an opportunity to consistently perform at that level, which has been probably his biggest problem. Is he's shown it in glimpses what he's capable of. But doing it again the next game and the game after that is where he's let himself down. So he's done well enough for me last night to be given another opportunity. So we'll see how he does with that. That's it for me.
Absolutely, and apologies to Barron's Maw for Richard referring to him as an ugly midfielder. We didn't mean it. He didn't mean it. Promise. Another wee comment here. Big Axe is asking, will we go back to 3 centre halves with Tav in there? Just referring to our conversation about Tav as a centre back. I don't think we've got enough centre backs left right now for that to happen, to be quite honest, Axel. But obviously it is a potential option, but I would think it's probably unlikely given injuries and obviously again going into December losing Giga as well. I don't think we'll have enough, but I'm sure if Roll thinks it's a tactic that will get us somewhere, then you might well do it, but we'll see. Okay, time to welcome the one, the only, the incomparable. It is Mitch. How are you getting on this evening, Mitch? You get your filming all done and dusted?
We did indeed, mate, so keep your eyes peeled on what we are doing over in the scouting department. We have a few hot videos coming up that will get the juices flowing for everybody ahead of the January window.
So, sounds good. I think this is a slight rarity. It's not often we're doing a post-match or a day after pod with a match report, and we've actually got you on. Quite often you're not there to defend yourself when your numbers are up there. So before you were on, we obviously we had a bit of general chat about the game. So give us your thoughts and your match ratings, which I noted as I said a bit earlier, lower than Falkirk overall.
Right. I'm waiting to hear your problem with that.
No, I'm just asking your
I
thoughts.
see your fishing rod. I see it.
That's what the host does. He fishes comments out of the people that are around him.
I think the thing that the perspective around them is probably the core area where players lost the biggest amount of points compared to Falkirk was in the back line, and it was because of those individual errors that that cost both goals. As we both know, I am a big defender of Manny Fernandez. I like him. I think he's got a lot of raw materials to work with. I think he probably doesn't make the mistake that he does for the opener last night with an experienced centre-back partner beside him to bark at him and tell him, get your backside moving and get on your bike before he... Because let's be honest, he get caught flat-footed. We'll call a spade a spade. His feet didn't work and he got caught napping at the back for it. Jigger, it's another, for the second goal, it's another mistake in a long line in a growing line of mistakes over the course of the season. And it's no disrespect to either player because they are still very young, inexperienced centre-backs at a top level. I get Manny's played, I think it was, now Doug, you'll know the number off by heart. I think he played, about 60 games for Peterborough, maybe a wee bit more than that. But in relative terms, it's inexperience at a top level. You can get away with making mistakes at Peterborough's level. When you step up to the big leagues, you will get punished for those mistakes. And I think that's reflective in the ratings of that because, again, I would like to have, minus both centre-backs, equal mistakes for the goals. I think overall, Manny had quite a solid game. Overall, on the eye test, they had a pretty solid game. He didn't let the mistake early bells, throw him off his game. He was quite vocal. He was quite commanding in his presence. But Jigger just, as soon as he makes a mistake, he started going back into himself, which is a shame because I think at the weekend they started to show that there's something under there with him, but it's going to sound kind of crass. He's not our problem to deal with and go and fix to get the form out of him. He's someone else's £10 million problem, not ours.
Indeed, that's very true there. We've got Cassie in the comments asking 1.5 for Trinity is a bit generous. Did he get a 0.5 just for being in position for the header? I think that's probably about it. He got one for running on the pitch without falling over and 0.5 for getting in position for the header. 18 Glasgow Rangers 72. Who done the ratings? Stevie Wonder.
Cheers, Gordy. Son of a battery for that.
Do get in the comments if you do have any particular ratings that you disagree with. Put them in the comments, and I'll give us something to chat around. We can discuss them with you. So fire those comments in.
I'm ready.
You got a fresh cut there, Mitch, or is it just the angle?
Just a better angle, mate. That's all. I've got a wee table. So I borrowed Dwayne's table. I'm not going to lie and put my laptop on it. It's just making the hair look better from my long lens.
There we go. There we go. Chris, one of the other things that, or one of the things that Danny Rowe got a bit of criticism about. I'll float this point to everyone as well, because I've actually seen quite a lot of criticism against Danny Rowe after last night's match, which kind of confused me, because as I said at the beginning, I was sitting there going, okay, we dropped points, but that was a vastly improved performance. So I actually came out of it thinking, oh yeah, okay, that's slightly better. But a lot of people have been very critical. And one thing that they've been particularly critical of was his substitutions. So I thought I'd just come around everyone and have a wee chat about that. Obviously, you saw there on the match report, he brings on Aarons, Diamandi, Chermiti, and sort of just right near the end, Asgard. Although that's about 2 games now he's come on, I've not really noticed. Aarons, however, Aarons comes on, was pretty solid. I thought he shored up the back a little bit, because Tav was having a poor game, and obviously wins the penalty that gets us the draw. So I would say that was a fairly successful one. But Chris, what were your thoughts on the substitutes overall? Would you have liked to see anything different?
I'm surprised, Doug, at what he did last night, the substitution, because normally what we've seen from Danny Rowe is he'll make a change at half-time if it's not working. Now, he must have thought it was working and Rangers had the control at half-time, and that's why he hasn't made that change. Look, the criticism has to be no Cameron, no Curtis, right? And I'm saying that, Doug, from a criticism point of view of what we think they can do. But again, we have to back the manager here. If he's not playing them ahead of some of the guys that he's actually putting in there, they must not be doing it in training. They must not be turning it on and showing what they can do. And we can sit here as a fan base and talk through, he's not giving this person a chance, not giving that a chance. He's seen them day in, day out, and he's making a decision off the back of that either they're not ready or they don't fit into what he's trying to play at the moment. And I think we have to trust him. That's the situation. But as I said earlier on, I think these guys will get a chance at some point. He's going to have to, because the amount of players he's going to lose over the coming weeks with injuries, and you'll have suspension starting to come in. You'll get the players going to AFCON. He's going to need to use his squad as much as possible to try and get the best out of them. And he's going to want to know what he's got going forward. The big one for me was, again, Asgard coming on. I genuinely don't see what he's bringing at this moment in time, and I felt maybe he brought him on for just his height for last night. I don't know if that was what the thinking was behind it, but for me, if you're going to go for digging, Cameron's in there all day long. He would dig for you all day long, so he would, and I think he should have been. She should have been brought on. I was also very surprised. I think we said it last night in the post match. Very surprised at how long it took him after Dundee United scored the second goal to make changes as well. I thought we'd have seen that instantly, and it didn't. It was a real surprise that way. But look, again, if Chermiti takes that chance, if Danilo takes his chance, or one of his 2 or 3 chances, if Miovski takes one of his chances, we're not talking about his substitutions. We're not talking about anything else. We're talking about how that's a great performance last night and how that's a fantastic 3 points at a very tough venue. So I'm trying to get that balance of, I'm trying not to criticise too much for these substitutions, because looking back in reflection, it was a very, very unlucky game in terms of not getting those chances. But look, I'll call it again to Mitch, 1.5 for Chermiti. Mitch, he came on, right? And I said this last night, he came on and he had 2 headers. One was a header back into the Rangers half, where Dundee United went and got a corner. And then the second time he touched the ball was when he's tried to put it in the back of the net and he's hit the corner flag with it. I think that's how bad he was. And we've given him a 1, or you've given him, I'm not even going to put my name to this, but you've given him a 1.5. You have been so generous at giving that guy a 1.5 in the back of that. You must have been looking at that thinking, I don't want to give him a 0 or a 0.5 because he'll walk away. You should have given him a 0 or 0.5, because that was absolutely honking, Mitch. So that's the only one I'm going to criticise you for, mate, because the rest of them are all right.
I must say, of all the ones I thought you were going to get a real hard time about, that was not the one. But anyway, we'll give Mitch a right to reply. You need to come off mute if you're going to do it. So
I had to get a point for tying his shoelaces properly.
that's it. Richard, got a comment here from Paul. Sterling needs minutes soon. Obviously, we've seen him now on the bench the last 2 games. Not had the opportunity to come on, which I think is probably fair enough. You don't want a player just back from injury potentially overdoing themselves when we're chasing a game. So I think that's okay. But how quickly do we need to see Sterling back in the team?
We've needed him in the team for quite some time, to be honest. But we need a fully fit Sterling at his best, and I'm not sure that we're going to get that anytime soon. But he definitely does need minutes, and like I say, there's nobody particularly looking at Tav in particular and stuff. There's nobody that's earning the spot and has got it there to keep. So he definitely needs some minutes, and he deserves the opportunity to show what he can do. I'm not entirely sure that he's going to get it the same way that Curtis hasn't. Cameron, coming back from an injury, I think Rowe will probably, put him back in gradually. Probably do a few more bounce games and stuff like that in training. Want to see a lot more from him. So I'm not expecting to see him anytime soon, apart from maybe coming on in the last 10 minutes if we've got a decent lead, unfortunately. And I just wanted to say a lot of what to respond to Chris with Asgard. And yeah, he is frustrating us. But as we were speaking about Bajrami earlier, it popped into my head. The grief that Asgard's getting at the minute is sort of like what Bajrami had when he first came. So, we're seeing it in glimpses. We think there's a player there, but he's just not showing it. And I think it's the exact same thing. Now, we're still at the case with Bajrami, and, there's still doubts about him, but he showed, particularly last night, that there's a player there. And I think it's the same with Asgard. I just hope it doesn't take him the same length of time to actually, come good and get good quality, consistent performances for the team.
Absolutely. How do we comment? I was going to bring up there. Oh yeah, there we go. Glasgow Rangers 72 there. Just wait till Doug starts on Tav's rating for being low. Well, actually, to be fair, and I do obviously try as much as I hold my fan club card high. When someone's poor, you just have to call him out, and he was poor last night. The one thing that Tav normally brings is, even one of the reasons I maintain that Tav is a good player is that most of the time when he plays poorly, he still contributes, be that a goal or an assist or creatively. But last night, he didn't really bring any of that. His creative stats are pretty low in that game. He's normally in the top end, and he looked a bit slow, to be honest. So I have no complaints for that one, actually. As I say, he had a bad game, and unfortunately that happens. But, Mitch, one of the things I want to touch on with yourself, sort of looking at kind of holistically, Chris makes a good point about, some of those chances go in. We maybe win 4, maybe even 5-2, 5-3, 5-4. Dundee, to be fair to them, had a few chances as well. And it totally flips the narrative. And one of the things that when I was challenging your ratings last night, I thought a good point you made was the fact that one of the things you're taking in balance there is the fact that we only got our equaliser in the last 8 seconds of the game via a penalty. How important is it in terms of, particularly between now and January, for Danny Rowe, that we as fans try and kind of control ourselves in terms of letting these narratives run wry? Just like to say, I don't know if you were already on, but as I was saying earlier, I saw a lot of criticism against Danny Rowe in the last 24 hours that surprised me. So just want to sort of get your thoughts on that.
Firstly, I think anybody criticising Danny Rowe is doing the club and Danny Rowe a complete disjustice at that point. I get that there are question marks about some of the lineups, but I think unlike other managers that we've had previously, Danny Rowe comes out and speaks to us like adults and speaks to us and tells us the truth. At the weekend there, he told us why Gassama was on the bench. Gassama was on the bench because his wife had just had a baby. Congratulations to them from all of us. But that bit of open communication between manager and fans goes a long way for the goodwill between obviously fans and manager, because I think, towards the end, Clement had lost quite a few fans, obviously, just with coming out with statements that didn't need to come out with. And I think, and that's coming from somebody who is a big Clement fan, I still think Clement was the right manager, wrong time at that point. But I think, Russell Martin used to come out and just straight up lie to your face, and you're like, did you actually watch the same game that we were all watching here? Because we were dug meat for 90 minutes and you think it was all right. But I think Danny Rowell's very honest in his assessment, but I think there's a few parallels, and I don't like to make the parallel between Danny Rowell coming in and Clement coming in with the injuries that are currently up there at the moment. If you look at the backline at the moment, the reason why it's an inexperienced backline that's up there is, one, nothing to do with Danny Rowell. We've got a 19-year-old left back who's playing his first season of senior football. Cheers, Kevin Thelwell, after he sold 3 left backs. But we've also got 2 young centre backs in there playing at the moment, because the 2 experienced centre backs in front of them are out injured. Which, let's be honest, any other team at any other point, you wouldn't expect your 2 most senior centre backs to be out at the same time. Which is why we've been left to the position that Tav is the only senior, and again, no disrespect to Tav, he's been a tremendous servant to the club. I think Tav's now on aging legs at the back, and I think the substitution with him coming off last season was much less about what he'd done on the pitch, because we all know Tav is the sort of player that he can make magic out of nothing, in a heartbeat. But I think it was very clear last night that he played something like, I think that was game number 4 or 5 on the bounce for Tav. They're old 34-year-old legs, considering what we've put them through over the seasons. 50 plus games a season for the last 5-6 seasons. That takes its toll on anybody. Richard's the fittest man out of all of us here, and Richard will tell you that has to take its toll physically on you. That there's a big difference between players maybe like Sergio Ramos when he was at Madrid, for example, using that as an example of his minutes were managed towards the end of his time at the last 2 seasons at Madrid of, well, we've got younger players that we can bring in. The problem is the other player that we brought in to play right back's having to play left back at the moment. That's down to poor recruitment again. That's what it all boils back down to. I think if Dijon Sterling was fit, I think we'd probably have the argument that Sterling would be pushed out on the left, but Sterling, again, he needs very carefully ushered back into the fold. I think it can go one of 2 ways. If we go two-footed and try to rush him back into play just to appease all of us, that could go very wrong very, very quickly. And then we all go, oh great, there's Dijon broke down again. Or do we do the smart thing like the manager is at the moment? And do I think if we were maybe 2-1 up or 3-1 up last night, do I think we would have seen Dijon for the last 15 minutes? Probably. But was that the right time to put a player in that's been out for, what, give or take 9 months, 10 months? That's not the right setting to go and put him back into the fold. Because again, it needs to have that softly approach by putting him back out. It's not going to say that he's going to play soft when he comes out, but there has to be a bit of common sense when it comes to his return.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. We don't want him, as I say, overexerting himself while we're chasing the game. We've got to give him some minutes when we're a bit more comfortable. Paul, I definitely got your question. I've got and a couple of others that folk have asked. I've got those pinned for us to come back to nearer the end, so don't worry. We've got a selection of your comments for us to have a bit of a quick fire question ending. But before we get to that, the one player we've kind of mentioned a couple of times throughout, and who was, I think, quite easily the brightest spark, not just last night, but in the Falkirk game as well, was Nedim Bajrami. Bajrami's obviously been frozen out of the team for quite a while. I think his only solid minutes this season was in the Alloa game, which he also scored in. And he was becoming a bit of a forgotten man, Chris, but he's coming back in to the team, obviously, in the last 2 games. And as I say, he's shown a little bit of fight around him. Now, there has been a bit of a narrative going on with Bajrami due to comments being made surrounding his place in his national team. which obviously, most players want to keep themselves in contention to play for their countries, which is totally understandable. And I'm sure is one of the reasons that we were getting that bite from him in these games. We've got his sort of his vital stats up from this match, and you can see obviously, marauding kind of along that left-hand side and into the, you can see the kind of trail into the box. Lots of passing. He's only got 2 or 3 inaccurate passes in that whole selection on his pass map. And obviously had a good few shots, one of which is his penalty for the goal. How well, as I say, do you think he played last night? And do we hope that this is obviously a new dawn for him and he can try and make a bit of a difference to us creatively?
I think it is, Doug. I think if he gets the game time, and the one thing with Bayrami is he hasn't really always had that run of games that he'd probably like any player would probably like, if I'm being honest. So from that basis, I think he needs a run of games now, and I think he'll get that. Maybe the odd one where he might be swap if. I was about to say Clemonte, that's what you've done to me there. Jeez. If Danny Rule decides he wants to swap him and Asgard around, then you maybe find that. But I think, he'll get the run of games. But I was really impressed last night with his work rate. I know obviously the key stats there, but I thought his work rate was fantastic, Doug. I really did. I thought he worked back tremendously well, and he helped cover that left-hand side with Makoma. And I don't think it's any surprise that we're saying Makoma had his best game last night when Bayrami's playing on that left side. I think that those two worked in tandem, and you can see that on the stats. Look at when he's obviously going forward and stuff. Look at his defensive stats as well. His defensive play in that left hand side he's done really well as well. So from that point of view, I honestly think he did a really good link up with Makoma. I think he had some good balls into the box. We touched upon his accurate passes. Those 7 passes he failed. See, if you watched that game back last night, every one of those passes he failed was a forward pass. One of the things he never done is he never passed it back the way. He never went back to the goalkeeper. Everything he did, he always took the ball, turned, and he was looking forward with it. And I think that's something that Rangers have missed for a long time in a player like Bayrami. I'm trying to think back to somebody who's like that previously, and maybe Tierney from what he brought last season, maybe on comparison. But I think the team now, if he pushes on, one or two things are going to happen. I think he'll either push on between now and January and maybe go in the window in January if they get a good bid for him. But again, they'll probably want to recoup back that $3.5 million they put out. If he shows what he can show, there's no reason why a team wouldn't take a chance on him, especially the fact that he's going to have suitors for the summer. So Rangers would maybe have an option in the hand to look at that one and say, do they recruit anything back or do they keep him in? Personally, I would like him to stay. But then suddenly, if he doesn't go in the January one and he goes, and if I think is they're in the World Cup or they're about to qualify, if they're in that World Cup and he has a good World Cup, then again, it's who's to say that big bid doesn't come in after the World Cup for him, because he was well thought of in Italy before he came to Rangers. So I really like him. I think he's a really, really good player. I think his stats have showed really well for last night. A really tough venue. That's the big thing for me. That's the one that stood out for me. It was a really tough venue. But what we need to see from Bayrami is we need to see that consistency. Let's see him do it again and again. Let's see him do it at Rugby Park on Saturday night. Another tough pitch, another tough venue to go to. Let's see him do it there. Let's then see him doing it against Hibs at Ibrox as well, following game after that, and see if we can keep doing it. Listen, he loves a game against them, so he does. So if he can keep continuing, get through to January and maybe come up and keep Callum McGregor quiet again, I think that'd be really good, because he does like playing against them. So that would be a good one for me. And I think if he can get that run, Doug, I think we've got a real key player in our hands and someone who can make a massive difference to the Rangers side.
Yep, so good thoughts there. Richard, I got an interesting comment here from Ali. They say Bayrami and Moore were working well together against Alloa, and Bayrami obviously scored a peach from that. Obviously, we're hopeful that Moore is going to be back. I think he'll be one of the quicker ones back from injury, hopefully in the next week or two. could there be, obviously, I can't remember if it was yourself or Chris that sort of touched on seeing Bajrami playing in the 10, but could we potentially, obviously, maybe see a slightly better flowing attack if we have an on-form Bajrami, a returning to form Moore, and then hopefully the trouble that Gassama can cause with Gassama on his natural left side, Moore on the right, and Bajrami in the middle. Is that an attack that you think could do some damage for us?
Certainly could, especially if Bajrami keeps up his form that he's doing at the minute. Moore coming on a bit of form before his injury, unfortunately. Gassama, we know that he's got something there. He can, attack at defences going. He's been probably our most consistent player this season, without being absolutely amazing. But unfortunately, he probably has been our best attacking threat, certainly. So it's definitely something that I think Rowe should certainly be considering. I know all the fans are going and putting nod and say, yeah, that's on paper to me. That sounds that our best attacking threat. Whether or not it will happen, I don't know. And also, I'm not sure how much Rowe will change it with Bajrami's coming on to a bit of form, being out on the left. Sometimes, especially with the way we've been, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Let's see how much better it can get. He did get a lot more space from Dundee United. They pressed us a little bit higher. They gave him a little bit more space and time out on the left. I'm not entirely sure Kilmarnock are going to do that with the form that they've had and a bit of pressure that Kettlewell's under. So I'm expecting him to sit and be a little bit tighter. And they've probably noticed what he's doing. And not going to say they're going to mark him out of the game, but they're certainly going to be aware of the threat that he possesses. So I think that's probably what we're going to see again. But ultimately, absolutely, I want to see him in the number 10 position because I really do think he's got that ability to thread, a pass through and sort of unlock defences. And the threat of Gassama and Moore on the wings, on paper, and the way they're playing right now, yeah, that would be the three for me.
It could be something exciting there. Shug is asking how long is Moore out for. As I say, I think it's the next week or two. In fact, it might even be the next game that he's back. He wasn't quite ready for the Dundee United one, but I think if I recall correctly, Rule said that he would be in contention for the weekend's game. So we should be seeing him pretty soon, hopefully. If not starting, I would expect him to be on the bench maybe for the weekend and hopefully then back after that. So hopefully not too long. Mitch, I'm going to come back to you on, you touched on your love for Fernandes earlier on. We had a comment from Alex earlier about potentially going back to a back three. With the return of Sterling, and obviously, presumably we'll see him coming into the team in the weeks to come, with Giga going to be away, do you think we'll see some changes to the back three at all? Richard wasn't sure, in terms of making changes, if that would be a good idea. Do you think that Rowe might roll the dice on any changes there with Enciala, with Sterling, depending on obviously on how things go and how performances are?
I think he's going to have to. And it's not through, again, any fault, but also we need to be practical. Now, let's be honest, most of us would like to see Nazir Jigger return back to Wolves in January. Will that happen? Only the people who, only the bean counters will know, because no doubt there will be some sort of penalty to us for returning him unless Wolves request to bring him back so that Rob Edwards can have a look at him, obviously, as a new manager down there. But he's also going to be away for the African Cup of Nations now. However long he's going to be away for, whether that's, I think, minimum 2 weeks, maybe 3. But then he's also going to need that recovery time when he comes back because he's played a tournament mid-season. So realistically, we're probably looking at him being out for the guts of, let's say, 5 weeks minimum, give or take, with the travel and everything else that comes with it. You can't just bring in a player like Enciala from the cold at that point, with 0 minutes in him at all. Which I just don't understand why Enciala, for example, hasn't had a sniff this season. Given the crisis at the back, obviously injury-wise, with experience, he showed last season in the run of games that he got that he's more than capable of being there. And I think there's a certain element of Russell Martin wanted a shiny new toy in Jigger, and then we put our other toy to the side, and I think that's going to be a case of what's happened with NCL, and we can only go by the player's social media, and he's not unprofessional enough to turn around and say Russell Martin's the worst manager he's ever experienced in his life, because I just don't think he's that sort of lad. I think there has to be some changes. Sterling needs to start getting some minutes. And I see the comments about, when are we ever going to go 2 goals up and stuff like that to bring him into ideal circumstances. Would I put him in on that plastic pitch down at Kelly? No. I think that's asking for a recipe for disaster on a cold winter's night. Would I put him in the game after? Absolutely. Because I'm sure the game after Kelly, we are at home. So put him in at home. Even if he only plays the first half, that way where you say, tell you what, you do a half and somebody else will take the other half, or someone else is going to start the game and you're going to come on for the second half and get 45 minutes into you. I think there's also Cornelius is still to come back, but I think we don't know how long that's going to be. John Suter, I think, is end of December, roughly, from what we were told a couple of weeks back. Mikey Moore, he's still about 2 weeks out, I think, roughly, based from what the last update was. But I think at the back there needs to be some changes. Magoma cannot keep playing every single game. He's 19 years old. We are asking to blow the boy's legs up mid-season. It's his first season at adult football. So is that potentially where you put Sterling when Sterling comes back as the rotation? Personally speaking, I think I've said, and Doug can vouch, I've said for a long time, I think Sterling's best place as the utility man is actually the back line utility man. Play across the back. Don't put him in midfield. We have midfielders who are paid to be midfielders. You were signed to be a defender. Go and defend. And again, it's very Dick Campbell school of football. But, I think there's a place for that of he is a big, physical, athletic, defensive player. He will put a tackle in. He will win his duels. He's vocal. We've all heard him when when we've all been at Ibrox. He can be the noisiest person inside a 55,000-seater stadium. That way. So I think he would be good for someone like Fernandes to learn under of get used to getting bollocked by the guy next to you. Where it's not being rollocked for the sake of it, but you're being given clear instruction by somebody who's already been doing it. And Sterling was part of that senior leadership group as well. I don't know if he still is, I don't know if Danny Rose finally put that in the bin. But, that's an experienced player who can give him some guidance.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. I think I can see centre-back becoming his main role at some point, but he'll need to get on the pitch in order to do it. Got your comment here from Philip. Is Rothwell injured or binned? He's never on the bench. I think he's just binned, Phil. He basically hasn't had a look in since Rolls come in. And to be honest, I think that's probably right. In terms of the six, I think we've got Barron and Raskin who are better. And in terms of I was going to say in terms of players further forward, but actually maybe we don't have anyone better. Maybe we should bring him back. But yeah, as far as I know, he just doesn't get picked. So that's the best I've got there. Right, lads, we'll finish off with just a couple of questions that have been put through here. So the first one I've got is one from Paul. Apologies because I did see Paul's had to go, so he's hopefully he'll get to come back and watch the end at some point when we get this question. But he's asking about we have a new set piece coach, and yet Tav is still taking everything. Right, first and foremost, I want to explode this myth. Tav does not take every single corner free kick that we have. You can go to various websites that display corner statistics, and you will find the various players take them on occasion. He does take the majority. I will concede to that, but he doesn't take every single one. But the point that I more wanted to make about this one, Chris, is that Tavernier is one of the few players we have, in my opinion, which admittedly is biased, who has a bit of actual genuine quality in terms of putting the ball in. Now that quality may or may not be getting worse over time, but I still see plenty of games where we're just so lacking in good balls in. from anyone else. And ultimately, when you put this back, obviously Tannadice's been doing this for years now across multiple managers. So, and it's the management team and the coaches obviously that decide who's taking these things. So it's not just Tav wandering about going, I'm taking everything because I want to. When Cherney was in the team, he took a significant number of corners because he, for me, was that kind of level above technically as well. To me, this is just another sign of our poor recruitment, that we are not bringing in players ultimately who the manager is looking at and going, actually, you're really good at corners as well. Let's get you on a few more of these.
Do you know, Doug, it's an interesting one for me with Tav, right? And I say it because I'm one of Tav's biggest fans as well, right? I really am. I think for the service that Tav has given us, it's tremendous. And I'll reiterate what Goldson says, we won't realise what we've had with Tav until Tav's no longer here, right? And I'll say that wholeheartedly. But what I would also say is, come on, give us somebody else taking a corner or a free kick or a throw in or some, mix it up a little bit, right? This new set piece coach has come in. We're expecting a wee bit. We're not expecting miracles overnight, right? But I'm at least expecting to switch it up in terms of Tav to somebody else or whatever. Now, Bayrami is an example. He takes a free kick last night when Tav's off. He takes a penalty when he's off. Free kick hits the target. Penalties hit the back of the net. There's Bayrami. Bayrami showed he can go and take it. So he should be in the mix for that as far as I'm concerned. Tav should not be taking left corner, right free kick, left free kick, left throw in, right throw in. He shouldn't be doing it because when he's going to the other side of the park, it does leave us exposed if he's going to the opposite side at any point in time. Yes, he should be taking some free kicks because he's a tremendous free kick taker and we've seen that over the years. But Rangers need to mix that up. And whether that's Tav pulling shotgun on taking these corners and free kicks, or whether that is the management and the coaching staff saying, look, he's the one that is going to take it, something needs to change. We need to change it up a little bit because it just doesn't seem right at the moment. It really doesn't. But look, he pulls it at a hole 9 times out of 10. So he does when he does do it. I think if I look at last night, I look at Falkirk, he probably took every one he was on the pitch for, every free kick, every throw in, every corner. Many times did he not get it past the first man. That's something I would like to look at in terms of a stat at some point in time because, and this is my big frustration, Doug, is not just with Tav, it's with any footballer that takes a corner, takes a free kick. You're doing that day in, day out, you're training day in, day out. You should be able to beat the first man. There should be no excuses for that. And how many times they see that in a football pitch? Somebody's mentioned Declan Rice there. I can't remember. I think it's Cassie's. He's mentioned Declan Rice. Declan Rice takes every corner for Arsenal. Absolutely, right? Many times does it hit the first man as well. But I mean, he hardly ever does it, right? Because he's that more step up. But there is other ones who take it every time and hit the first man every time. And I think that's the biggest frustration for Rangers fans is, say if you were taking corners, you were producing goals, nobody would be caring that James Tavernier's taking the corners. The fact that we're not producing anything off the back of it is the reason why people are going off on that. And I think that when we start to see what this new set-piece coach can do, be interesting. What, if you don't mind, a really quick thing is what I did find interesting over the last few games I've been watching. When the corners and free kicks come in, I've noticed the set-piece coach comes and stands at the edge of the dugout. He stands in or as far as out he can, and he's directing from there. That's really interesting because that's the first time we've seen that with Rangers in a long time, in fact, forever. But you do see it a lot of English clubs, you do see it a lot of foreign clubs where the set-piece coach comes out and does it. So maybe over time, maybe that's going to help us a little bit. But right now, we're not seeing the benefit of it. And I think we need to see a wee bit of a change in getting Tav off everything at the moment.
Yeah, my question would be: Is Tav hitting the first man, or is Raskin failing to get to the ball? That's a real question. But anyway,
like that.
Richard, I got two sort of comments here from 18 Glasgow Rangers 72 that I'm going to kind of smush together. So he's kind of put, are we trying to get Asgard on the market to punt in January? And then asking it as if it's true about 4 signings in January, what's the 4 positions you would go for? I'm going to condense that slightly just because we're just over the hour a bit, just to one. So ask you, Richard, one, if you could sell one player who would that be? And then what position you think is the number one target that needs filling?
Sell one player because I think we'll get money for him, or sell one player because I just want him out of the club.
I'll let you decide. Maybe both. I mean,
difficult to answer that. Well, the obvious one would be Chermiti to get some money back, because I think it's an absolute waste of money, but I don't think that's going to happen. But the easier one is to look at who would potentially sign, or where we need to sign. For me, clearly up top, right? No matter if we only can sign one position, it's got to be up top. I don't think Miovski or Danilo, and certainly not Chermiti, are the answer. And we definitely need someone that can just come in. We know that he's going to hit the ground running. There's a clear and obvious one that we're not going to get unless we throw stupid money at it. And I don't really have the answer of outside of that of who we should go for. But that's where the scouting team, or if we had a sporting director, that's where they make their money. Failing that, for me, I think we do need to shore up at the back. We need somebody else coming in. We need a real tough defender. For me, I want a defender that's going to go up there and head every single ball, that would just, commit fully. People say a lot about Suter, that he's a siege defender. And I think that's a little bit harsh on him, to be fair, but I do understand why they say it. But I want a tough defender that's hard to beat and is not scared to put his head where it needs to be, rather than the ones that we've got at the minute that seem to want to take two touches and pass the ball around the back. So for me, those are the two areas that we certainly do need to improve. But yeah, if I'm going to get rid of one, it's going to be Chermiti all day long. But to answer the question about Asgard, no, I don't think we're giving him minutes to punt him. I think we're giving him minutes to get the player out that we think that we've bought. He's going to get it easy till the end of the season, and I think there's a player in there that's just, we need to get it out of him somehow by hook or crook. I think there's a player in there. The same what I said earlier about Bajrami. We all thought the same thing with him. We've seen it in glimpses, and I think it's the same with Asgard.
Yep, quite possibly. I think if we all remember, it took a little bit of time before Raskin hit his stride. So hopefully that'll be the same for not just him, but ideally one or two or three or four or five or six of them. So we'll see what's going. Okay, so just before we finish, I've got a nice yes or no question for you, Mitch. So yes or no, Alex Gogic?
No.
Great stuff. Thanks for tuning in this evening, guys. It's been a great chat with the lads tonight about the game. As I say, I think things to be happy about, things to be sad about, things to be angry about. There was a little bit of everything in that match, and I think we broke down a lot of it tonight. Thanks to everyone for all your comments and your questions. As always, there's been some great comments in there, and it's always great to bring them up and to get you guys involved in the video as well. Thank you to our channel sponsor, Bluebell's Bar at Lanzarote. As I said earlier, if you're ever in that neck of the woods, do give them a shout. Tell them that Rangers Journal sent you. So they'll show you all the Rangers games while you're away and need something to do when the sun is going down. Just leaves me to say thank you for tuning in. Big thank you to Chris, Richard, and eventually Mitch for joining me this evening. And just remember that every night is a Rangers Journal night. Thanks, guys.